with CSRs, they're like, oh, I'm not licensed. That means I can't even mention the word life insurance. And it couldn't be further from the truth.
There's so many different ways to spin it and to talk to people, to get them to start thinking about it.
My favorite part of leading a 30-person agency is sitting at your desk for an hour, monitoring your call to get you to remember to ask.
All right. Hey, everybody. We are back. I told you in the last podcast we were having a special guest. This is the one, the only, Josh Callahan. Josh, you want to say hi, introduce yourself to our loyal viewers and listeners?
Yes. I've done a podcast with you all before, but I'm Josh Callahan with C Group Insurance. I'm an Erie agent out of Virginia. I started scratch in 2009, so I've been doing this 15 years. And then I'm kind of at a place where we're trying to reinvent some things and grow. And I'm sure a lot of agents are here as well. But I know today's topic is life insurance, and that's kind of our specialty. So excited to dive in.
Yeah, maybe you could just share with everybody a little bit too, like how many life policies are you writing a month and I know it varies, but if you're like an average.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing with Erie, we're doing roughly a couple hundred or so a year. But outside,
by the way, for
Erie,
most people is like shocking, right? Like,
right, yeah, I get
you're like,
that.
well,
Yeah,
hold on, the underwriting guidelines are so tight. Like, how are you writing a couple hundred a year?
It's honestly, it's almost one of just the regular old sales talk, right? It's volume. And, with us, with our program and what we do in our office, everybody's engaged with life insurance. And, I'm sure we'll talk about it at some point, but that's really where agencies a lot of times miss the boat, right? Like everyone's not engaged. They'll have maybe one person that's their life person, but really, if everyone in your agency, if they have anything to do at all, has to be engaged in life insurance. And when you get to that point, what it does, it creates such a large funnel that even at 200, there's a lot more than 200 being talked to, right? And then that, like I said, that's just with Erie. And then the stuff that they don't want, we have a lot of great programs that we put people to still be able to generate that revenue.
Yeah, which is awesome. So just so people understand, because some people probably like swerved when they heard you're hitting a couple hundred with Erie as they were driving. How many team members do you have, just so people kind of understand the scope and size of your agency?
So with our six locations, we have roughly, including myself, 15 people on our team, which is not a lot considered 6 locations. But keep in mind we're in a rural part of Virginia where it's spread out. So typically we have 1 to 2 people per location. So we have, but not all of them are actually, probably the majority of them aren't life licensed. But that doesn't slow us down as far as our process or program.
So I just want to reiterate, because I have been to Josh's locations. We are talking rural Virginia.
Very rural.
So we are talking small communities. We're not talking about people who have tons of money, right? Like, you're getting people to think about their families and protecting them without that big objection everyone always gets. Well, I can't afford it, right?
And of course, we get the same objections. And if I'm here or if I'm in, Wisconsin, I'm going to get the same 3 roughly rebuttals, right? It's either they got it at work, don't have any, or whatever. So, and it's just a matter of, being their agent and talking them through those things and just acknowledging what they're saying. But we're not really, it still doesn't matter. It doesn't stop us, right? And that's the thing. But one of the key things that I want to say before, if we don't talk about anything else, is that a lot of times CSRs hide behind the fact of they don't have a license, right? Or they don't want to talk about it. So that's one of the things that I want to spend a little bit of time talking about, because the CSRs are the key. I've hardly ever been into an agency where they have this rock star live producer and they're doing all the live production, right? And I would love to say that I'm just this awesome live agent and it all comes through me, but it's not. I have a kick butt team. They do a great job, and they're the ones that produce it, and they're CSRs. My number one live producing person on my team does not have a life license, but they ask about life insurance more than anyone. And out of that 200, easily 80 to 90 of those are coming from her. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I've tried to get her life license, but she has a really good setup with another team member. She finds it, they ride it. And it's a beautiful thing. But that's what I want to talk about, though, is because with CSRs, they're like, oh, I'm not licensed. That means I can't even mention the word life insurance. And it couldn't be further from the truth. And that's where when agencies let that sink in and click, and then once your team knows, hey, you can't work for us unless you believe in it the way that we do. And it's got to be a shift in culture. But when you get to that place, everything changes. So
Absolutely. So like you get the CSR, right? And
Mhm.
and again, I've been down to Josh's, like, you're not finding licensed people to work for me. You're getting people licensed in like just
Absolutely.
PNC, right? Like you don't have a plethora of like places to go pick and get, or you
No,
don't want them, right? Like you're
do
like,
not want them. Most of the time, do not want them.
you're finding good people, getting them, training them the PNC side. So if you're new, like, do you give them some scripts to use? Like, how do you train them to start asking? Because I think it all starts there, right? Like, what do I say,
Yeah.
Josh? I don't know.
Absolutely. No, that's the thing. And once we get past that point of you don't have a life license to discuss this, because I take that excuse away. And all the agencies that I'm working with now, it's the same thing. I don't care where we are. Every CSR that's not licensed, they're either afraid or whatever the case may be. But I said everyone can ask the simple question of where do you have it, right?
Mhm.
You don't have to be a salesperson, you don't have to be a guru, but if you can't ask that question, you cannot work for me, and you should not be able to work for anyone else, right? So it's like, but people get so scared, like, oh, what do I do? But it's all about the systems. But you have to have everyone, if they're on the phone communicating with clients, it's just there's no give in that. You got to be able to do it.
And Therese, when you were on the front line, what would you say? What was your go-to script?
I would, I was talking to them about their PNC stuff, and I would just be like, okay. And I actually did a lot of outbound calls, so warm calls with people who had home. I started with home, auto, and life, or home, auto, and umbrella. Since they have home, auto, and umbrella, I would jump on the life because they already have 3 lines. So it was usually an outbound call. But if I was talking to them, I would definitely, where is your life insurance? Do you currently have life insurance? And I would, like I said, use the words. I have the generation chart, and I would use different words depending on the generations to get their attention. Because I know, using the word life insurance, people just like, oh, death. But, with millennials, budget friendly, flexible payment options, financial independence, because they're tech savvy, you use those kind of words, life events like marriage or children. So when you hear somebody say they just got married, or they just have kids, that also is, okay, well, how do you protect them if you're not here? If something were to happen to you, how do you protect them? And how do you protect your assets? Because, how do they afford to pay for everything, your lifestyle? How do they maintain that lifestyle if you were no longer in it? So there's so many different ways to spin it and to talk to people, to get them to start thinking about it. Now, sometimes they say no and they have all these objections, but a week later they call you back because you plant that seed and it's growing in there, and they're like, oh yeah, I do need to look into this.
Yeah. And so, Josh, in your agency, like obviously the CSR is doing the service work. So they hear things, right? Like, oh, we're getting a new home, or I just changed jobs, or all of these things. And I guess for me, my question is like, I think people listen to this and they're like, well, that's great, but I can't, like, what am I supposed to do if they don't ask for life? Like, so what do you do? Like, you get a new person and they're just not doing it. Is it just like, hey, hit the highway, you're not doing it? Or do you guys coach them a little bit?
Yeah, you definitely got to coach them up. And just to speak to her point a minute ago, so we are the flip side. We probably 95% of our life comes from inbound calls. We make 0 outbound calls for life insurance because think about it this way. You're already talking to the client for a reason, right? And most outbound calls, if you're calling them, it's mostly received as a sales call, correct? Like, so when you're calling somebody out, all my agents call me, what do they want? Okay. So when
Pay
someone
my
calls
bills. What are you
in,
talking about?
yeah, like and of course we're like everybody else right now. Everybody's getting hammered with rate, and you're like trying to explain that. But when someone calls in and you're taking care of what they need, and then when you pivot and you do those things, it takes a lot of that off, and it's seen more as a service than like trying to do the outbound. We have done outbound in the past, but we have found that it's better to take care of that when you're already talking to them for something else, right?
Well, you
But
guys
yes,
started in the renewal review too.
yes. And that was one of the things with the renewal. That's what we loved about that so much when we implemented those things, is because you're already looking at everything,
Yeah.
right? So you're seeing the holes, you're seeing the things that need to be done. But back to your question, absolutely. Like we still have weaker links on our team, right? We still have people that don't quite do what they want to do, but at the same time, we're like, whenever they're struggling or they're wanting to make more money, it's always a way too. You can go back to it, but like, you have all the opportunity in the world. You just gotta do it. So we do coach people up. But now if someone just refuses, they don't have a place on our team. It's just, if you can't do that, then they're probably not going to do anything else I ask.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, well, the key script that we want to give you guys on this podcast is we have like, hey, I'd like to update your file. Where do you have your life insurance? That can be used on new business. That can be used at renewal. That can be used on endorsements. And like to Josh's point, and Stephen, maybe you can chime in on it too, like being, you ran a sizable agency, right? So like if somebody can't get the words out of their mouth, and this is consistency too. I think what Josh is saying is your team does this consistently. It's not just like when you get after them, when they remember. If there's a full moon and it's Taco Tuesday and they're wearing pink, then they remember to talk about
That's my favorite day.
I know, like it's like
Tuesday.
it's just part of what they do every day. So, Stephen, when you were running the agency, like how would you address some of these things? Because everyone's so worried. Josh's point of like we're all dealing with rate, we're also dealing with short staff, we're also dealing with crispy staff. Like I said to a bunch of agents the other day, sometimes I walk into an agency and I look at a CSR and I feel like if I touched them, they would just like disintegrate. like they are so frail and like
they will
snap that they would become a pile of dust on the floor.
I think that one of the things is setting the expectation and then monitoring it, right? Like what results are we getting? I took it to an extreme because I was tired of the excuses and they had to log it into the management system. Every time they talked to a client, there was a separate log they put in that said, asked for cross-sell auto, asked for cross-sell home, asked for cross-sell umbrella. Because I wanted the CSR team to literally look at the account when somebody called and say, okay, you're calling for a new car. That's great, but I see we don't have your home. Do you rent or do you own? Like it was a simple question. They didn't have to get into it. They didn't have to dive deep. I just wanted to know where the other policy was, or at least that the question was asked.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was running the weekly reports of activities, I would then pull it, and on our team meetings, I'd be like, great. So-and-so had this many asks. So-and-so had this many asks. So-and-so had
Public
this many asks.
shame. I like it.
And you had none. How can we get you to get to the expectation that we have set? Then I would sit with them and be like, my favorite part of leading a 30-person agency is sitting at your desk for an hour, monitoring your call to get you to remember to ask. Right. But I mean,
really the favorite part of your day.
it was being very facetious, but it made them more uncomfortable than not that I was sitting at their desk for an hour waiting for the phone to ring with them. And they suddenly remembered to start asking the question. I wasn't doing it to be mean or whatever, but we had to have a different culture in the agency so that we could focus on what we were good at.
Yeah.
And we were horrible at going out and getting leads. We were horrible at networking. We were not great at bringing things in. So we had to mine it from the field we had.
So basically what you're saying is the threat is if you don't, I will sit at your desk for a half hour. And then
that was extreme. But yes, there was a few that we had to sit with, or the team leads had to sit with. And if they couldn't get it, it was an action plan. And I'm like, literally, you don't want to work here because you won't ask a simple question. I'm not asking you to quote it. I'm not asking you to educate the client about it. All I need you to do is one of these 3 scripts. If you see this, ask these 3 questions.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's pretty much it.
I mean, it seems pretty straightforward to me, but
yeah. So, I mean, the tracking. And so here's the thing, guys, the big takeaway from this is very simple script that anybody could use. Your receptionist, anyone, like my mom could use this if she came into your agency is, hey, I'd like to update your file. Where do you have your life insurance? That's it. You start a conversation. And this is where we talked about earlier. Don't overthink it. Don't put the cart before the horse. You just have a chat about where they have their life insurance. That's it.
That's it.
And then if you do that 20 times a day, you'll start to sell hundreds of life insurance policies, right, Josh?
I mean, that's it. And I've actually, I got a pilot program going on now for some really good agents, and they're implementing some of the things in my program, and they're like, man, this is taking off. I'm like, it's really, I'd love to say that I'm just awesome, but it's like, it's just enforcing like what he was talking about. And I love the idea of public shame, but here's the thing. You're going to have a blend of people. Some of your people are salespeople, and some of your CSRs could care less about money, right? Everybody's different. Now, me, when I first got in the business, I worked for American General Life and Accident, and I was like a door-to-door like life agent, and they would have a meeting every Friday, and you did not want to be the dude with zero, up there. Like it is so humiliating. And if you're a salesperson and a competitive person, it absolutely eats you alive. So number one, my goal is to be at the top every week. But then two, I was always writing this week for next week. So, and I do like the idea of that. And I think if people seem like, hey, that's why keeping track of it the way that we do, we can tell who's doing what.
Right.
If you've got a CSR that's talking to 45 people, a day, and they're not asking about a lot, there's a huge disconnect there.
Well,
So it is taking the
they don't
information.
have any life to
Well, that was the point I was trying to get across is I'm not asking you to sell anything. All I want is an ask. Like the ask is what was tracked.
Yes.
Like, so anybody can ask. It takes a special person to sell it.
Yes. Yeah. That's really it. But it's it's kind of like the
right. It just seems so simple. It's like, it's not rocket science, but like it is. So here's a cool thing. If you like what Josh said to say, he's actually a guest star in our new How to Cross Sell Life course. So you'll get it straight from his mouth of what he's doing more in depth. But I just want to say, check out that course again. Like, I know Therese came from Nationwide, so they have life goals. Josh, Erie, auto owners out there. Like, these are all things where like you can get some good wins real quick and make it simple and easy on your team. And join us for our next podcast, which is how do we do some sales training, right? So whether that's sales training to get the asks or whoever's going to be selling it, it is a skilled conversation to present the life quote and get people to purchase it, because you get to hear about everybody's health issues, which is a really fun scenario. I'm sure for the privacy and HIPAA purposes, Josh cannot disclose all of the fun life questions he's probably heard over the course of time.
Listen, I'm gonna say this, but if you're a guy, the hardest question I have to ask is a woman's age and weight, right? that is I would rather take a beating than ask those questions. And they don't care to tell you their list of medications, but when you ask that, man, it's always tough.
Are you athletic build? What are you?
Yeah. Sometimes you're just kind of making a guess for them, I guess.
and a guesstimate.
Yes, guesstimate.
Well, thanks guys. We will see you in the next podcast, everybody.